400,000 soldiers trapped on a blood-soaked beach, bombs screaming from the sky, the sea their only escape, but death closing in from every side. What if ordinary fishermen, housewives, and weekend sailors became the unlikely heroes who snatched victory from the jaws of defeat? This is the heart-pounding miracle that saved the free world, and it's a story you won't believe until the very end. Welcome to Echoes of World War II. Listen to the past. Follow the story and subscribe to history. In the spring of 1940, Europe was engulfed in the flames of World War II. Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany had already conquered Poland, Denmark, and Norway with terrifying speed. Now the Führer's eyes turned westward toward France and the Low Countries. On May 10, 1940, German forces launched Fall Gelb or Case Yellow, a massive invasion through Belgium, the Netherlands, and the Ardennes Forest. This was the infamous Blitzkrieg, lightning war, a strategy combining fast-moving tanks, dive-bombing aircraft, and infantry to overwhelm enemies before they could react. The Allied forces, primarily British, French, and Belgian troops, were caught off guard. They had anticipated a repeat of World War I's trench warfare and positioned their strongest armies along the Maginot Line, a series of fortifications along the French-German border. But the Germans bypassed this entirely, slicing through the supposedly impassable Ardennes with panzer divisions led by generals like Erwin Rommel and Heinz Guderian. Within days, the Wehrmacht had punched through Allied lines, encircling hundreds of thousands of soldiers in a pocket near the English Channel. The British Expeditionary Force (BF), under General Lord Gort, found itself trapped alongside French and Belgian allies. By May 20, German tanks reached the Channel coast at Abbeville, cutting off retreat routes to the south. The Allies were funneled northward toward the port of Dunkirk, a small French town with sandy beaches and shallow harbors ill-suited for large-scale evacuations. Panic set in as Luftwaffe bombers rained death from the skies, and artillery shells pounded the retreating columns. Winston Churchill, Britain's new Prime Minister, addressed the crisis in Parliament. He warned of the dire situation but vowed defiance. "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds." Yet behind the rhetoric the outlook was grim. Military estimates predicted that only 45,000 men could be saved at best. The BEF represented the core of Britain's professional army. Its loss could force Britain to sue for peace, leaving Hitler dominant in Europe. As the noose tightened, Allied soldiers endured harrowing marches. Many abandoned equipment, wading through canals and dodging Stuka dive bombers whose sirens wailed like banshees. Stories emerged of heroism amid chaos, a British sergeant rallying his men under fire, or French poilus holding rearguard positions to buy time. The Belgian army surrendered on May 28, further exposing the flanks. By late May, over 400,000 troops huddled in Dunkirk's perimeter, defended by a thin line of fortifications improvised from sand dunes and wrecked vehicles. The stage was set for what seemed like inevitable annihilation. German panzer divisions, after their lightning advance, paused inexplicably on Hitler's orders, a decision debated by historians to this day. Some say it was to conserve tanks for the push on Paris. Others speculate Göring promised the Luftwaffe could finish the job alone. This halt order bought precious time. Meanwhile, in Britain, Operation Dynamo was hastily planned under Vice Admiral Bertram Ramsay. From his headquarters in Dover's Cliffs, Ramsay coordinated an armada unlike any before. As the sun set on May 26, the first ships departed for Dunkirk. Destroyers, ferries, and minesweepers braved the Channel, but the real miracle would involve civilians. Appeals went out for little ships, yachts, fishing boats, pleasure craft, manned by ordinary Britons. This ragtag fleet symbolized national resolve. One such vessel, the Sundowner, skippered by Charles Lightoller, a Titanic survivor, would rescue 130 men in a single trip. The evacuation began amid smoke and fire. Dunkirk's oil tanks burned, creating a pall that obscured visibility but also hindered Luftwaffe accuracy. Soldiers queued on beaches, wading into surf up to their necks, clutching rifles overhead. Royal Navy ships loaded as many as possible, but mines and U-boats lurked beneath the waves. The first day saw 7,669 evacuated, a trickle against the tide needed. Personal accounts paint vivid pictures. Private Bill Hersey recalling the stench of cordite and fear, or Pilot Officer Al Deer shooting down German planes overhead. The miracle was unfolding but at great cost. This was just the beginning of an epic tale of survival against the odds. As Operation Dynamo swung into action, the call for civilian vessels echoed across Britain's southern coast. From Ramsgate to Southampton, boat owners responded with astonishing speed. These weren't warships but everyday craft. Thames barges, cockle boats, even lifeboats from luxury liners. Over 800 would eventually join, crewed by fishermen, retirees and weekend sailors. This Mosquito fleet embodied the Dunkirk spirit, ordinary people rising to extraordinary challenges. Take the story of the Tamzine, a 19th-century fishing boat just 45 feet long. Her owner, a Kent fisherman, navigated treacherous waters to pluck soldiers from the shallows. Or the Medway Queen, a paddle steamer that made 7 trips, saving 7,000 lives despite being bombed. These vessels couldn't dock at Dunkirk's damaged piers, so they ferried men from beaches to larger ships offshore, often under enemy fire. The journey across the channel was perilous. The shortest route, Route Z, was only 39 miles but exposed to artillery from Calais. Routes X and Y were longer but safer from shore batteries, though mined heavily. Luftwaffe pilots, under Hermann Göring's boastful command, strafed the evacuees relentlessly. Stukas screamed down, dropping bombs that sent geysers of water skyward. One attack sank the destroyer HMS Wakeful, drowning hundreds. Yet, Allied fighters from the RAF provided cover. The Battle of Britain was previewed here, with Spitfires and Hurricanes engaging Messerschmitts in dogfights. Air Vice Marshal Keith Park coordinated sorties, though fuel limits meant pilots could only patrol briefly. Stories of aerial valor abound. Squadron leader Douglas Bader, despite prosthetic legs, downing foes, or Belgian pilot Willy Coppens defending the beaches. On the ground, rearguard actions were crucial. The French 12th Motorized Division held the perimeter at great sacrifice, allowing British troops to evacuate first. In towns like Wormhout, atrocities occurred. SS troops massacred 80 British prisoners in a barn. But heroism shone through. Corporal Harry Dennis organized a makeshift defense with Bren guns, holding off panzers. Churchill monitored from London, urging more effort. By May 28, 17,804 were saved, but numbers climbed as the little ships arrived. The paddle steamer Crested Eagle was hit, burning with 300 aboard. Survivors swam ashore only to rejoin queues. Amid horror, moments of humanity, a Dutch Schuit distributing cocoa to exhausted troops. The weather played a role too. Calm seas aided small boats, while low clouds grounded some Luftwaffe raids. Historians debate if this was divine intervention, as some contemporaries claimed. Ramsey's team worked miracles in logistics, using moles, breakwaters, as improvised docks. The East Mole, a narrow wooden pier, became a lifeline, loading thousands hourly despite bombings. As days passed, the perimeter shrank. German infantry probed defenses, but the halt order's reprieve ended on May 26, too late to fully capitalize. Hitler later regretted it, but by then the evacuation gained momentum. Soldiers' morale varied. Some despaired, discarding weapons. Others sang "Roll Out the Barrel" defiantly. One poignant tale is of the Lancashire Fusiliers, who marched to the beaches playing cornets scavenged from a fairground. Nurses from the Queen Alexandra's Imperial Military Nursing Service evacuated wounded on hospital ships like the Paris, which was sunk but whose crews saved many. By May 30, over 100,000 had crossed. The little ship's role can't be overstated. They saved perhaps 100,000 directly. This section of the story highlights how civilians turned potential rout into rallying cry, forging national unity. Dunkirk wasn't just military, it was a people's miracle. The beaches of Dunkirk became a surreal hellscape from May 26 to June 4, 1940. Miles of golden sand turned into quagmires of mud, littered with abandoned vehicles, ammunition crates, and the detritus of war. Soldiers from the BEF and Allied forces waited in long, snaking queues that stretched into the sea, disciplined by officers to prevent panic. The air reeked of oil, smoke, and fear as burning warehouses belched black clouds that mercifully veiled the scene from aerial spotters. German artillery from nearby hills pounded relentlessly, while Luftwaffe bombers circled like vultures. A single raid could kill dozens. Survivors recounted the terror of Stuka sirens designed to break morale. Private Ronald Searle, later a famous cartoonist, sketched the absurdity: men playing cards amid explosions. Wounded lay on stretchers, tended by medics under fire. One doctor operated in a dune crater using brandy as anesthetic. Water was scarce, food scarcer. Troops subsisted on hard biscuits and shared cigarettes. Some dug foxholes, others hid in wrecked buses. At night, flares lit the sky, exposing positions. Yet order prevailed remarkably. The Royal Engineers built makeshift jetties from lorries driven into the surf, allowing small boats to load faster. Heroic rearguards fought delaying actions. The 2nd Battalion, Coldstream Guards, held Castle Hilltop, repelling attacks until overrun. Their sacrifice bought hours. French troops, often overlooked, were vital. General Jean-Baptiste Molyneux's forces defended the southern flank, enabling more evacuations. By June 1, most British were gone, but 40,000 French remained, many captured later. Naval losses mounted. 9 destroyers sank, including HMS Grenade, exploded in harbor. The hospital ship Street Julian braved mines to rescue wounded. Civilian skippers showed incredible bravery. Basil Parnell's yacht ferried 600 despite lacking charts. One boat, the Reigate II, towed lifeboats overloaded with men. RAF pilots flew exhausting patrols. Flying officer Jeffrey Page was shot down, swimming to a rescue boat. The air battle claimed 106 RAF aircraft but downed 132 German ones, blunting the Luftwaffe. Göring's failure here foreshadowed his defeat in the Battle of Britain. Personal stories humanized the ordeal. A Scottish piper played as his regiment boarded, boosting spirits. Belgian refugees mingled with soldiers, sharing meager rations. Acts of kindness amid barbarity. German pilots occasionally waved instead of firing on helpless swimmers. As the perimeter collapsed, stragglers hid in dunes, some swimming to ships. On June 2, Churchill ordered French equality in evacuation, but logistics favored the organized BEF. By June 3, 26,175 crossed in one day. The last ship, HMS Shikari, left at 3:40 a.m. on June 4 with rearguard troops. In total, 338,226 were saved, 198,229 British, 139,997 French and others. Equipment losses were staggering, 2,000 guns, 60,000 vehicles abandoned. But the men lived to fight another day. Dunkirk's beaches, scarred by craters and wreckage, stood as testament to endurance. This phase captures the raw human struggle, where despair met defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. As the last evacuees reached England, a wave of relief swept the nation. Trains from Dover and other ports carried weary soldiers home, greeted by cheering crowds offering tea, sandwiches, and cigarettes. In London, troops paraded through streets, though many were too exhausted to march. Newspapers hailed the miracle of Dunkirk, coining the phrase that captured the improbable success. Churchill, in his June 4 speech, tempered euphoria. "We must be very careful not to assign to this deliverance the attributes of a victory. Wars are not won by evacuations." He praised the RAF, Navy, and civilians, but warned of invasion threats. Indeed, Dunkirk boosted morale, proving Britain could snatch hope from disaster. Recruiting surged. The Home Guard formed with pitchforks and shotguns. For the rescued, readjustment was tough. Many suffered shell shock, what we'd call PTSD. Audie Murphy-style heroes emerged, but most were ordinary men haunted by memories. French evacuees faced mixed fates. Some joined de Gaulle's Free French, others returned to Vichy France. Germany spun Dunkirk as victory, claiming the BF's destruction. Hitler toured the beaches, but his halt order drew criticism from generals like von Rundstedt. The decision allowed Britain's army to survive, pivotal for later campaigns. Luftwaffe losses weakened air superiority attempts. Operation Dynamo's logistics were masterful. Ramsey's team used tidal charts, wireless radios, and improvisation. The little ships returned heroes, many preserved today, like the Sundowner at the Imperial War Museum. Culturally, Dunkirk inspired art. Noel Coward's In Which We Serve film or A.J. Cronin's novel, The Citadel echoing themes. Post-war, it symbolized resilience, referenced in crises like COVID evacuations. Historians analyze factors. Hitler's hesitation, weather, RAF cover, French sacrifices. Some credit luck, others planning. Casualties: 11,000 Allied killed, 40,000 captured, 3,500 British civilians volunteered, some lost. Dunkirk reshaped the war. Britain stood alone until Barbarossa in 1941 diverted Germany east. The saved BF formed North Africa's core, leading to El Alamein victory. Without Dunkirk, D-Day might never have happened. Stories linger, a soldier finding his brother's unit on a ship, or a dog, Paddy the mascot, swimming to safety. These tales humanize history, showing war's personal toll. In retrospect, Dunkirk was no miracle in the supernatural sense but a confluence of courage, errors, and resolve. It taught that defeat isn't final if spirit endures. For YouTube, visualize with maps, interviews, and reenactments to engage viewers. Decades later, the miracle of Dunkirk endures as a beacon of hope in adversity. Christopher Nolan's 2017 film Dunkirk brought it to new generations, blending timelines to capture chaos. Critics praised its immersion. It grossed over $500 million, sparking interest in World War II history. Memorials. The landscape. Dunkirk's beach cemetery holds 4,500 graves. The Dunkirk Memorial honors 4,500 missing. Annual commemorations see veterans, now few, reuniting. In 2020, for the 80th anniversary, virtual events adapted to pandemic, echoing the original spirit. Lessons abound. Militarily, it highlighted combined arms importance and intelligence's role. British codebreakers at Bletchley Park aided peripherally. Politically, it solidified Churchill's leadership, his oratory rallying empire support. Culturally, Dunkirk symbolizes backs to the wall defiance. In Brexit debates, it invoked plucky isolationism. Globally, similar evacuations, like Saigon 1975 or Kabul 2021, draw parallels, showing timeless evacuation challenges. Personal legacies. Many evacuees contributed post-war. Engineer Barnes Wallace, involved indirectly, later designed bouncing bombs. Survivors' oral histories, archived by the BBC, preserve voices. Controversies persist. Was it overhyped? Critics note French contributions downplayed. 18,000 French died defending. Belgian King Leopold surrender drew ire, though necessary. In education, Dunkirk teaches resilience. Schools use it for history lessons. Museums like Dover Castle recreate Ramses HQ. For YouTube content, expand with debates. Hitler's mistake, arrogance or strategy. Include veteran clips, animations of battles and what-ifs. If Dunkirk failed, would Britain fall? Ultimately, Dunkirk's miracle lies in humanity, strangers risking all for others. It reminds that in war's darkness, collective will can illuminate paths to survival. As Churchill said, it was a colossal military disaster, turned into deliverance, shaping victory's foundation. History is heard when it's shared. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment with your thoughts and share it with another history enthusiast. Subscribe for more echoes of World War II.